All right. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Jomo Stewart. We're here at the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation. It is 8:03 in the AM Tuesday, February 22nd, and we're here for the Energy for All Alaska Task Force meeting. Our guests this morning are President and CEO of the Golden Valley Electric Association, Mr. John Burns, as well as Ms. Meadow Bailey, the Communications Director. Just as one moment before we get started with the program, I do want to remind everyone that today and tomorrow is a large conference here in the interior over at the Westmark, if I'm not mistaken, is the Communities Economic Summit. It's relative to the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy for the community, which is in the process of being drafted and is meant to further that enterprise. For those who don't know, the CEDS is, again, as the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy for the community, serves as a basis for, frankly, a lot of funding. It is a strategic guiding document. And so we are encouraging everyone who might want to participate to do so. And you can find that information, I believe, on the FNSB website. Otherwise, if you go ahead and call me, I can forward you the agenda and the flyer. Well, all right, with that out of the way, good morning, Team GVEA. Thank you for coming, and the floor is yours.
All right, Jomo, as always, thank you for the invite. Before I get started in this presentation, I just wanted to share a safety moment. You know, Golden Valley, we start absolutely every meeting, regardless of the size of it, with a safety moment. And I think it's with all the snow we're getting, you know, it's really important to not only in the driving, to be very careful in driving, clearing your windshield, clearing your vehicle off so the snow doesn't blow into the windshield, but just you know, pace yourself. We're moving a lot of snow, and you know, some of us don't get enough exercise, and so we get out there and think we can do it all. So just pace yourself and you know, take your time to be sure that you're operating safely in all situations. So with that, Jomo, let me get started and welcome everybody to this morning's meeting. I really appreciated the seeing so many faces that really have been part of this journey for many years. And you know, as we will share here, we've got some incredible opportunities facing us that we can't achieve unless we are working collaboratively together, not just within Golden Valley's service area, you know, interior Alaska, but throughout the state. So let me, Meadow, if you can flip through it, I'd appreciate it. Next slide. So we're talking about the electrical infrastructure opportunities that are facing us, but let me give you a real quick overview on Golden Valley at a glance. 45,000 meters. 100,000 residents. Look at the size of the area. Okay, almost 6,000 square miles of service territory, 3,300 miles of power lines, ranging from, you know, goes all the way from Cantwell up to Delta Junction. An immense service territory. Okay, very, you know, significantly larger than you know, most anything in the lower 48. Our sales last year were 1.2 billion kilowatt hours. And we have the capacity, nameplate capacity, to generate 381 megawatt within our service territory. Okay, because it's important to be able to generate it in our area. It's great to bring it up the intertie and have diversification, but you know, when it's a crunch, you know, we've got to be able to provide electricity to our members. Next slide. So these are our members at a glance. The previous one was Golden Valley at a glance. So here's our members at a glance. You know, our members, and I'm, you know, very frustrated and disappointed to say, you know, pay some of the highest rates in Alaska. And you know, obviously that other areas within Alaska, the rural communities pay significantly higher. Unfortunately, we have PCE, power cost equalization, to help in that regard. But you know, the simple fact is that some of our, you know, our members pay some of the highest, and you know, that's within the rail belt as a whole. Homer pays slightly higher, CEA is slightly lower, but we definitely end up paying more than I would hope in the future. We currently pay about 10 cents more per kilowatt than the national average. But at the same time, our members are telling us that they really want carbon reduction. You know, Golden Valley set a carbon reduction goal, and our members share that desire. many want to transition away from fossil fuels. And we at Golden Valley share that same desire. We need to figure out how to do it. The reality is heavy industrial users such as Fort Knox actually help reduce the cost for residential users. Because you think about it, their usage they're about 20-25% of our load. If that load wasn't there, the cost of Golden Valley would be spread over the remaining 75%. So industrial users really do help reduce costs for residential users. And this latter point, we all know. The high electric costs make it expensive to operate in interior Alaska. If we could get costs lower, we'd have additional mine development, many other economic opportunities. So, we're always striving to figure out ways to do it. Next slide. And we're really at a point of unprecedented opportunities. And I'm happy to see click online as well as so many others that are instrumental in the decision-making process, because we are at an unprecedented point in really in our in our history. And I say it from the standpoint that we've got the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was just passed. Railbelt alignment has never been better. And when I say that, I'm talking about the entire railbelt. The railbelt utility managers, myself included, realize that you can't go it alone. The times of being an island unto yourself are long gone. Our ability to achieve expanded renewables, cheaper power really is dependent on working collaboratively and cooperatively. On top of that, the state of Alaska has been very much engaged in this. AEA has a number of shovel-ready projects that they've presented to the governor. The Bradley Lake bonds have been paid off, and so the funding that the utilities are paying now to the state can really be used for developing the infrastructure that's necessary to expand the intertie from South Central all the way up. And then we have the Electric Reliability Organization, which is the genesis of that was Senate Bill 123. That's getting very close to being finalized. We hope to have the application filed with the RCA March at the end of March 28th thereabouts, and that's focused on the rail belt. There'll be an integrated resource plan and lots of the heavy focus on the rail belt. So unprecedented opportunities. So here's the vision. The vision is that we need to have adequately sized redundant transmission go throughout the rail belt, interconnecting loads, from Homer all the way up to Delta. And ideally, we'll talk about the road belt in a little bit, but ideally the road belt as well. Generation diversity, having a generation fleet that's insulated from single contingency risks due to physical location, fuel source, and technology types. If you have a robust infrastructure, then you can rely on generation from various places, and you're sending the cheapest generation up and down the intertie. Then you have energy storage. Battery technology has changed exponentially. We have the opportunity to what we call daisy chain these batteries. Homer just put on a very large Tesla battery. Golden Valley is looking to put on what we call a 46-184, 46 megawatts for basically 4 hours. And that allows us to absorb fluctuations, on the intertie, for example. The intertie, the more and more dependent we get on the intertie, little trips in the intertie wreak havoc. But if you've got a battery large enough to absorb those swings, because the intertie goes out for, generally for a very short period of time, but you've got to be able to have something to absorb it, and then until it gets back on, without having to start what we call black start, heavy fuel reliant units. And then you've got beneficial electrification, EVs, demand side management, all sorts of opportunities in that regard. The beauty of that is not only allowing diversification and energy savings, but it also, from Golden Valley's perspective, is real positive because it really also generates additional load. The studies that have been done by Brian Rogers' group for Golden Valley have really indicated that EV chargers are certainly the wave of the future. How long it takes to integrate them within Alaska remains to be seen. I don't know if you've seen our two here. We put in 2 fast chargers at our station here, and boy, they have been used. They've been used very heavily of late, mostly by Volkswagen, who's been doing a lot of weather testing, but they've proved themselves to be very, very reliable. All right, Menno. So let's talk about the first of these opportunities, transmission upgrades and additions. So increasing reliability through redundancy provides increased opportunity for generation connection points. Think about it from, you're trying to exit Seattle onto I-5, okay, during rush hour. If any of you have done it, it takes forever, okay? And that's currently what our intertie is, because our intertie is a 138, all right? When it's heavily loaded, the ability to integrate additional generation into that system is very problematic, all right? So expanding that 138 to 230 allows a lot more integration, which will certainly help in adding additional renewable energy sources. And it really links the community, because the idea is to have the free flow of electrons north and south, meaning that what we don't want to do is, for example, if we add a very large renewable project into our system, whether it be a combination of Delta and some of these other areas around within Golden Valley system, and Golden Valley can't absorb it all, okay, it would be an excellent opportunity to provide it south. And that's what the whole focus has to be, is assuring that the free flow of electrons, so we can get the cheapest power into our system, into our members as possible without affecting safety or reliability. So that's the whole emphasis on upgrading the transmission. Next slide.
Actually, if I may, John, on
Sure.
that slide.
Yep.
We have a balkanized system, but it made sense that we might have a balkanized system when all of these different smaller utilities were starting, because they were disconnected communities with disconnected loads that their utilities needed to be sure they could take care of. We've just matured to the point where further integration would be ideal. Does that sound about right?
No, that's exactly right. I'm frustrated to say that, it's taken us a long time to see the light. There used to be the mentality that if you were a utility, you needed to own it and operate it. And that's very far from the case. Okay, what we have to do as a utility, what Golden Valley is committed to doing, is to ensure that we provide our members with safe, reliable power at fair and economic prices. Okay, there's other aspects of the mission, but when it comes, focused on energy, that's the mission. And so from Golden Valley's perspective, and you've got 2 board members present today, Rick Soley and Gary Newman. From Golden Valley's perspective, we don't need to own it, we don't need to operate it. And as long as we can ensure that we meet the safety, the reliability, and lower costs, if all we become is a predominantly distribution cooperative, if that's to our members' best interest, then absolutely. But the final analysis, when it's 40 below, we have got to ensure that we can produce energy for our residents here in the interior. So we're never going to sacrifice that. But there may be ways that can be an emergency basis. So as far as generation diversity, we all know that diversification is important. It insulates against fuel unavailability. If we were exclusively fuel, for example, we would bear the brunt of these rising prices, and we put all the eggs in one basket. diversification is critical. At Golden Valley currently, we have probably the most diversified mix within the rail belt, right? But what we need to be able to do is to maximize that diversity within the whole rail belt to minimize pricing as well. So, generation diversity maximizes opportunity for carbon reduction on a statewide basis. And again, the beauty of renewables is not just that they are carbon free, okay, or reduce carbon. It also, enhances diversification. It allows us to bring on, additional resources. So you're not heavily dependent on one fuel mix, and certainly allows contingency planning for transmission line outages. Because we got to just face the reality. We live in very harsh conditions. Right now that intertie that connects us from South Central is being hammered. When as Mary Ann said, they're getting high winds. When you get high winds, heavy wet snow, it's getting battered all the way up until it comes into the Fairbanks system. So you've got to be able to address those contingencies. Next slide. Energy storage. We talked about, this is a third prong of these opportunities. Energy storage. The reality is that batteries have really come a long ways. From our perspective, as I said, what we are looking at currently, we've had a battery on our system for about 18 years, and it served its purpose well, but it's of limited capacity. It's 25 megawatts for 10 to 15 minutes. That's a very short period of time. You can't really regulate much. But if you can upsize the battery to 46 megawatts for 4 hours, it gives you a lot more opportunity to regulate, to increase reliability, because as when renewables shut down, when wind stops blowing or the sun stops shining, we've got to be able to absorb that energy until either it comes back on, or we can get what we call alternative generation online. And to be able to have the ability to absorb that to a battery really helps out in the long run. It reduces emissions, it reduces spinning reserve requirements, and overall it benefits ratepayers. Next slide. This is the final of the four-part. The opportunities going forward. Beneficial electrification. And you've seen those are pictures of our two EV chargers. And so you've got all of these opportunities that lie before us in terms of beneficial electrification. You've got EVs, demand side management, how we price and use electricity, maximize utilization of the infrastructure, and allows for load growth. So lots, this is something that's really it's an opportunity that's untapped within the rail belt, and it needs to be. I mean, we're all coming along, but we need to really accelerate, maximizing that opportunity. So those are the four legs of the vision. Now let's look at fundamentally what those opportunities present. The first, it's a northern transmission line upgrade from Fairbanks down to Willow. And so it currently is at 138 kV. So that limits the capacity. What that means in terms of capacity is up from Willow up to Healy, it's about 70 megawatts. That's the maximum that we can get up. Right. But if you expand it to 230, you've increased it, almost exponentially. And so it allows us to bring more energy up, okay, to the extent that we need it. If it's cheaper and we can bring it up, then it's our responsibility to our members. And so it's upsizing it also allows for additional renewables to come on. The cost is, roughly 170 to 200 million, but the benefits are tremendous. Okay. This is much of Much of it was sized to 230. The line itself is sized to 230, but there, when it was constructed, there are lots of upgrades to certain, substations and other components of it. But this is a must for Fairbanks.
Hey, John?
Yeah, sure. Hi, John.
When you say the northern line, is that a double line, really?
No, that's Alaska intertie. Okay, yeah, let me just say, this is the Alaska intertie, and it goes from Willow to Healy. So when you see Healy, up to Healy, then you see a split. Okay, that really is, there it is. That's what we call here the northern intertie. Okay, the Alaska intertie goes from Healy all the way down to Willow. That's the line that needs to be upgraded. Because once it comes into Healy, we have a redundant system. When we built the northern intertie, we added that additional line to the right, and that allows us to bring up, both the intertie, the Alaska intertie power, as well as the power that we generate at Healy. So that has essentially double the capacity, John.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Actually, we do have a question in the chat box, John.
Yeah.
And you may want to answer this one later, but it just asks, does GVEA have a position on the governor's RPS legislation?
Yeah, we will address that a little later.
Very good.
When we get to some questions. So the second opportunity, and the one we're focusing on right now with Bradley, the intertime money, is the southern transmission line upgrade, Willow to Soldotna. And that area, you got Bradley. When Bradley was built, the intent was to be able to maximize the opportunities to get Bradley and other resources into into the Anchorage, Matsu, and Fairbanks areas. That whole system is 138, 115 or 138, and it needs to be upgraded to 230. And so when you do that, you will not only be able to bring up the full potential of Bradley, but when we add the Dixon Glacier or renewable projects along the way, it enhances the ability to bring up more energy into South Central and ultimately up into Fairbanks. So this is a big project. Much of it is underway currently. Some components of it are underway. The BPMC, Bradley Project Management Committee, has been working with AEA to identify a number of these upgrades and to start those projects. And the cost is, significant, 400 and 450 million, but it will, have unbelievable benefits. So it's a high priority. And the third opportunity is really, this is a Railbelt transmission line. This is not per se part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, because the focus there is on resilience, upgrading. This would be an absolutely new transmission line. Now, there are possibilities to work with stakeholders, such as many of the rural communities and native corporations, to see if we can dovetail some of the money that might be available to service the areas that are not getting any electric service currently. Also, in connection with the broadband, lots of money for broadband, and if you look around town, much of the communications hung on Golden Valley lines. So having the opportunity to merge those two developments would may go a long way towards developing the road belt. But this, think about it, the expansion, the ability to have a redundant line. And when I say redundant line, you have them coming basically in a circle. So if you have an issue on the northern side, you can bring it up along the road belt. It also opens up economic opportunities to that whole area. It will expand exponentially the economic opportunities within interior Alaska. Okay, because, as we all know, the predominant driver of economics is lower cost energy. The development of the mines, all of these, all the things that are not moving forward because of the need for lower cost energy, have a heck of an opportunity. We're also looking at opportunities to get funding from DoD and DOE. Because the department, we have 4 military bases in our service territory. Okay, they are critically dependent on energy, and having an alternative, a redundant system, is vitally important to them. And so, this is attractive to them. How we actually get it to reality and get the funding, we're all going to have to put our heads together. So.
And two of those bases are but that much more reliant on your power as they used to be in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's this is something that really does need to get focused on. This is we gotta expand the Alaskan intertie for sure. But this, when we talk about economic development in interior Alaska, that road belt is a critical link to ensuring economic development. And I know Senator Bishop is very much focused on that. Next slide.
Actually, sir, oh no, you're right. Okay, we're on the 4th opportunity, please.
Okay. Now these are generation and energy storage. So first you have to have the infrastructure. And then what you need is to make sure that you have, battery energy storage strategically located within the rail belt, the entire rail belt, and you have, alternative generation sources where you can, and that's exactly what I mean, diversification through generation. So all of these put together, okay, and all of these opportunities are really what will, significantly improve the future of certainly Fairbanks and the rail belt. Because when you think about it, if you look at the 1.2 billion kilowatts that were sold, if we can save 2 cents or 3 cents on a kilowatt hour, that's a lot of money that stays in interior Alaska, okay, to be used and deployed for other opportunities. Next slide, Manuel.
Actually, if we can go back one.
Sure.
That was very good, sir. This seems like a good time to just take a stop and pause, see if there's anyone has any questions.
Yep.
Okay, not seeing any hands fly up. Just a reminder, again, you can place your questions in the chat box, or you may simply unmute and fire away. John's an old hand.
So we have just one more slide here. So this is, so we talk about these opportunities, and there's a parallel effort being pursued here. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, just focus on the Jobs Act. You've got 2 parallel efforts. The rail belt, okay, is when we talked about, going all the way from Bradley up into the Healy, the Alaska intertie and the South Central area. That's being pursued by the rail belt utilities collectively. And so, they're working collaboratively, system-wide initiatives, very much focused on that. Separate and apart from that, there are opportunities that each utility has through the IIJA, and these are some that Golden Valley is looking for. Load growth, local partnerships. These are things that we talk about the road belt, for example. The battery is another opportunity. So there's lots of we've identified 8 different pools of resources within the IIJA that have opportunities for Golden Valley. And so, staff will be working with the board to prioritize some of those opportunities. You can't pursue them all, and many of them require investment partnership, meaning that it's not just grant money. You have to make a commitment as well. So we always have to evaluate the financial impact to ratepayers. So that is the totality of the opportunities that sit in front of us. And when I talk about the unprecedented opportunities, it really is. What's going to be required, though, is everybody working together. The legislature be focused on the vision. all of the parties within the rail belt being collectively, working collectively to pursue the larger vision, and then and certainly the Golden Valley's members. It's we can't, for too long we have all been focused on what's in it for me. The railbelt utilities have been I think appropriately criticized for that over the past, and as a result we have not maximized the opportunities to benefit everybody. So I can assure you from Golden Valley's perspective, we are absolutely championing that cause. I will be meeting with Senator Bishop and others to see what we can do collectively to further those efforts, because we can't afford to squander these opportunities. They don't come around often, and so it's critically important, Jomo, to get Fedco's efforts on it. As I said, everybody focused on it, and so that's I'm absolutely open. Golden Valley is very much open to figuring out how best opportunities to best ways to do it. So that's the presentation. Let me open it up to for questions from the group. If there are
John,
any.
John, I'd like to go down my list because
Sure.
I've got to go here.
Mhm.
So I just want to, I got some questions. I don't need an answer on the first one. I'd like to know where Golden Valley's thinking on if there was some funding to go ahead and secure the FERC license for Susitna-Watana. I'd like to, I don't need an answer today, but I'd like to see the board middle that and get back with me. The second thing is, I don't need an answer on this one either, but I'd like a follow-up when you're talking about all these renewables and et cetera, where's Golden Valley at on nuclear power with these small scale nukes? The third thing is, as it relates to just everyday and IJA, if we, what's Golden Valley's workforce needs, and do you have enough people, and are you short, and are you scrambling? So that's the third one. The fourth one is, does Golden Valley have an IJA team stood up? Because 35% of this IJA money is grant money, as you alluded to. That's on a competitive basis nationwide. And that's something that we're trying to put together here in our office for finance. Because I'll tell you, the state's behind the curve at a state level as far as IJA team. The administration is, I think we're all behind the curve on this. I can tell you that you probably already know it because you talk to your cohorts in other probably parts of the United States. Other states have a team of 12 people at it, just at the administration level working on it. So that's that. And you talk about these line upgrades, and I'm in support of that. It's just a comment from my point, myself. Have we cost benefited analysis this? If let's just say if we were to do the whole enchilada, road belt, Homer to Willow to Healy, etc. I came up, it's about 1.4 billion all in to do that. And what's the cost benefit analysis? And I'll just go back to my last little point on that. If we were to just say to pay cash for that, what's the savings to the ratepayer? So that's my 2 cents for today.
I appreciate it, Senator. We will get we'll get responses to you on all of those. Certainly, the NREL study does recognize the critical need for hydro and also infrastructure build out. The labor, the workforce is a huge issue. Okay, because if all of this infrastructure comes online in the lower 48 as well as here, it's a huge impact on infrastructure. Now it's going to be funded over a 5-year appropriation process, So, I don't know how that ameliorates some of the issues, but those are, you're absolutely right. That's an area of concern. So we will get back with you on those five points. Particularly the fifth one relative to the cost benefit analysis, because the road belt, right now there's very little use for it. When we talk to AEA, that's the challenge. AEA is saying, well, show me the user, that will justify the build out of it. And
Well, and I say to AEA, do you want to be like Texas and freeze up for 30 days or 2 weeks or whatever it was? I don't know, we're from Fairbanks. We like redundancy.
we need redundancy for sure. So anyway, Click, we'll get back with you on it. I look forward to seeing you later this week.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's different for for electric than it was in natural gas, but with the utility, transmission was a tricky item, just because unlike other distribution that you could recoup directly from ratepayers, transmission was not one of those items. And so it was a bit of a fret for a utility to try to figure out. Again, it was a critical and necessary investment, would be beneficial, and yet how do you recoup that cost? I know Click just left, but yes, I think grant money would greatly help those economics for all of the utilities.
Yeah, for sure, because it has to be paid for, and whatever we put in capital investment does get tied to the rates, and so there's only so much that can be afforded.
Now, on one of Click's questions, he asked about whether GVEA had a team stood up to analyze the infrastructure bill and try to get ahead of that curve. I guess the follow-up question would that be, from your assessment, do other utilities across the rail belt, really across the state, have similar teams, and are you all working cooperatively? Yeah.
So let me answer the second question first, and that is that the rail belt does have a team. We have a team that's focusing on the rail belt infrastructure opportunities. So we've shared with the federal delegation that Alaska presents a very unique opportunity to achieve all in a small microcosm to show all the benefits that the IIJA was intended to facilitate. And so this will allow us really to show the merits of the IIJA. But you are right, or Click was right, that it's grant funds. And so, we are, it is a competitive process. I know AEA has been very much engaged in this, and I think that's the administration's arm as far as IIJA is concerned. So we're looking at it from the rail belt. As I said, there's two components: the rail belt side of it and the Golden Valley side. And Golden Valley does have an internal team, and we've retained a consultant to assist us in that process as well. So we're moving forward on it. So it's but absolutely, it's going to be there's an adage, gross adage, but I can't remember where it came from, but it's pigs at a trough. That's essentially what it's going to be. I mean, when that money hits, it's going to be it's going to be crazy. So we need to really make sure that we presented the best case for it. It's still a little premature because administrative agencies that are going to be responsible, DOE, for example, a big one of those, is just going through trying to develop the the protocols and the process. So it's been a little slower than anticipated, but allows us to get poised.
Good call. It was noted a couple of times. So I went down with the chamber fly-in. Mr. Soley was with us as well. I don't know if he heard it, but a number of times during discussions, folks noted that the Jobs Act had made authorizations, but not necessarily yet appropriations. So that does give us a little bit of time, again, to try to get ahead of this curve.
Well, and the other thing is being assured that the appropriations are there. that's going to be a challenge as well. So, I guess I open it up to other questions, but I want to assure everybody that, we've got two board members on the line here, Rick Soley and Gary Newman, so I don't mean to speak for them, but I can absolutely tell you that the Golden Valley is very much focused on, rail belt issues as well as generation issues. We have a decision to make on Keely 1. And so we're going to make a decision that's in the best interest of Golden Valley members as a whole. Okay. And we're looking not just short term, but long term as well. And so, we absolutely understand that the need and the desire for diversification, adding additional renewables. And, we're absolutely focused on making that a reality. But we've got to do so in a way that, we can afford it and go through it. That's why this opportunity is so incredibly important. I see John Davies.
Please. Yes, Dr. Davies.
Yeah, just on that topic of generally beneficial electrification and moving toward more renewables. Can you just give us a little sense of where do you have, for example, teams working on that? Are you working with people in the community to identify, for example, fleet opportunities for electrification, that sort of thing, and then helping people with what they need to get to that point where they can start actually, walking before they run and that sort of thing. It's kind of a chicken and egg problem, as you know, and so the more small bits we put together to get started, the sooner, the better, the quicker we'll get there. So I guess that's sort of my question.
So, the short answer is no. Okay. On the, do we have, a team working on, fleet diversification and these sorts of things? I mean, I know Golden Valley's looking at it. We put in the 2 EV chargers and hope to this summer be working with other organizations throughout the community to deploy additional EVs through the system. We're looking at putting an EV charger in Delta. So, that's one component of it. The other is, the member advisory committee is just presenting to the board this evening, as a matter of fact, recommendations on the on-bill financing. So that's an opportunity going forward. So there's a lot that's going on, but it's not formalized, John. It's not a group that is focused on beneficial electrification. We will be talking about it in terms of the next rate case. I'm certain of it. Demand side management, time of use, all these other opportunities.
Okay. Now, Mr. Soley, Director Soley, I see that you had turned your video on. Do you have a question, sir? Okay, we can step back. We can bring back around to him in a moment if he comes back on. I would just open up the floor generally.
I don't, Jomo.
There he is.
I do not. I took myself on the picture, I guess, because John was calling us out, but appreciate the presentation. And, yeah, thanks everybody for being here this morning.
All right. Again, I would open up the floor to questions or comments. I do see that we have Mr. Gene Terrio online. He has I believe he has a strong finger on the pulse of the state. Is there anything you have any insights for us, Gene? Oh, such a quiet, happy bunch today. Well, then I would offer an opportunity to Director Newman. Sir, if you have any comments or questions.
I thought it was your question, Jomo, was interesting in terms of trying to expand fleet, because I do recall the Borough Assembly talking about their garage, and they were all set to go with natural gas, and there was a sizable push to say, hey, how about EVs? And they were so far along in their process, in the design process, at 90%. They didn't want to delay it anymore, so they are still going ahead with the natural gas fleet. So that maybe was an opportunity lost. A lot of this comes down to timing. Somebody needs something short term And then you have a problem where you're trying to address long-term, and members think short-term. They don't necessarily think long-term, at least our Golden Valley members. That's kind of natural because it's what's impacting you right now. And it's really hard to think long-term if there's short-term sacrifices or impacts. And that's part of our challenge on the board and for management to be able to give this long-term view. But I can tell you, we're spending an awful lot of time trying to get to a good place in the medium long term. And John's outlined a lot of those issues before us.
Thank you, sir. John, I see your hand is up, and then we have Gene Terrio.
No, let me, I'll just make some concluding remarks afterwards, but let's certainly defer to Gene and anybody else that has a question. I just wanted to make some closing remarks afterwards.
Very good. But yeah, that's very prescient, Director Newman. Yes, trying to balance the short term versus the long term, doing what you need to do today while still keeping your eye on the ball of the strategic future. That is the challenge, always. Mr. Terrio, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, back to the question I posed earlier about whether Golden Valley has a position on the governor's RPS legislation. Then I have a second question too.
Gene, to answer the question, there's been no formal position taken relative to the RPS. I can tell you from management's perspective, it's great to have a vision. Okay, there are the Railbelt utility managers have some concern relative to components of it. So we have forwarded some proposed modifications to the governor. I can tell you personally, I very much support an RPS. Okay, it's got to make sense. It's got to be able to be achievable. We need to have understand the cost implications. But I think it's important, and I think the RPS, what the RPS underscores, and the NREL study particularly, and I would urge everybody to read it because there's a lot of really good things in it. But what it doesn't provide a cost assessment of it, and what it does underscore is you can't achieve what's being proposed, regardless of what the stage gates are, without upgrading the infrastructure. There's going to be significant infrastructure upgrade that's necessary. And so from that perspective, we absolutely support it. Golden Valley absolutely supports it because it will provide a lot of opportunity to integrate additional resources, renewable resources. I mean, think if we could have a 120 megawatt 80 to 120 megawatt project, renewable project, stationed at various points from Delta, throughout, and the ability to literally free flow those electrons within the system. We've just expanded opportunities, significantly. And that's what we need because, we tried to do it we did an RFI within our service area here. And, we were very candid with you. We looked at 15 to 30 megawatts and it just didn't move the needle from the standpoint of cost or carbon. And so it makes no sense for us to spend a lot of money and, commit to a project for a long period of time because you got to fund the project for, 15, 20 years. And so what it made all of us realize is we can't do this without working collaboratively on the rail belt. But working collaboratively, upsizing that intertie, we can achieve great things. And so I guess, just in making some closing remarks, we've got to work together on this. Okay, there may be differences of opinions as to, what the best way to go is, but, we've got to be working together on this. And, I invite, I will be making the circuit, so to speak, with Chamber and Rotary, and I hope to talk with the Northern Alaska Environmental Center and others, so that we collaboratively look at how to approach this. And then I'm going to be dependent on you working with your legislators and helping us to transition from a vision to reality, because we cannot afford to squander this opportunity. And I will do whatever I can, and I know Golden Valley is committed to, to doing the same, working throughout the rail belt. So I want to thank, I really want to thank everybody for allowing me the opportunity to present today. And my phone is open, so please share questions or comments and ideas, right? Because we, as I said, we need to work together.
Sure. But, and for the record, and I do mean for the recorded record, what is RPS?
Renewable Portfolio Standard.
Ah, very good. Okay, there we go. Thank you. That explains the rest of the discussion. Gene, I see your hand is still up.
Yeah, my second question is, I see Gary Newman's background there is Eva Creek. Is Golden Valley still being charged an extra fee for the use of the wind in addition to the fair market value for the land that the generation sits on?
You're absolutely right, Gene. I've had a number of conversations of recent with the governor's office on that. I think it's called, what we call it is a wind tax. Okay, the state of Alaska is charging us roughly $80,000 annually. Okay, for the right to use the wind that blows there. Okay, on top of a land lease. And so we are continuing those dialogues. I'm happy to say that we are getting momentum. And so we're, we'll be looking forward to doing that, because, you can't have a renewable portfolio standard or a philosophy that promotes renewables and at the same time you tax for something that you have no control over. And so, we're working through it, Gene, but it's, if we can't get a reduction on that, that's about $1.2 million more to our ratepayers over the term of that lease arrangement. So working on it, but thank you for raising that issue.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is absolutely counter to what the legislature intended. So
yeah. All right. Well, listen, everybody, I very much appreciate it. And, I'm long-time Fairbanks boy. And, I know that we can do this. I'm absolutely positive, and I'm not suffering from a Pollyanna complex. I'm just totally, I've never been more positive about the future of the rail belt than I am now. But I got to tell you, none of us will be able to look in the mirror if we can't make those opportunities reality.
Yes, this is a generational opportunity.
Yeah.
Both as far as the past, waiting for this to happen, and what we can set ourselves up for moving forward. Dr. Davies.
I just said that's a good pun, the generational opportunity.
Well, guys, thank you so much. President Burns, thank you so much for joining us. Ms. Bailey, thank you. Excellent presentation, and a good reminder that we have enormous opportunities before us. If we work together, we can capture them. And we may be able to fumble our way through it separately, but our chances of making the most of this opportunity come together as we come together. So thank you so much. I would give one more reminder to everybody again. The SEDS Economic Summit is happening today and tomorrow. There are multiple sections on multiple subjects on items that are key industries impacting our economy, both today and into the future. This is your time to, really it's your time to weigh in on those things. The contractor, Agnew Beck, very much wants your input. And so if you do have the time, please check online, find the agenda, and go ahead and come out if there's a section that interests you. Or just go ahead and come out and just watch, and again, engage as you feel interested. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I will say I am working on
where was that?
Thanks, guys. I'm working on bringing us a presentation together for next week. I don't want to announce it because I don't want to put anybody on the spot in case it doesn't come together. But I'll just know, as always, I'll be sending out the notices to inform you if and as it does. Well, all right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.